In the Antarctic Ocean, 28 people were aboard a ship that got trapped amid millions of tons of ice. They had been stranded in the same spot for 7 months. One night, they heard a loud noise from beneath the ship, and it suddenly tilted to one side. It felt as if something had hit the ship forcefully from below. What happened next was beyond their wildest imagination. Welcome back to another gripping video, Aramist. The Antarctic Ocean is a terrifying place. Waves as tall as buildings, winds blowing at 100 kilometers per hour, and water temperatures so low that human blood could freeze. Traveling here is almost like inviting death. Even if one survives the cold and the waves, giant icebergs the size of mountains are more than capable of crushing a ship. But 111 years ago, in a time when technology was far less advanced and ships were far weaker, a group of 28 explorers found themselves stuck in this merciless ocean. They didn't just survive a few weeks or months, they astonishingly endured for 2 whole years under the open sky, surrounded by nothing but ice, brutal winds, lack of food and water, and no chance of rescue. This became known as the greatest survival story of all time. The hero of this story is Sir Ernest Shackleton, a British explorer whose mission was to push the limits of human endurance. That's why he named his ship Endurance. Shackleton had previously taken part in many dangerous expeditions. In 1901, he was part of a mission that reached Antarctica, but had to turn back 750 kilometers before the target. In 1907, he tried again, but was forced to return just 150 kilometers from the goal. In 1914, his plan wasn't just to reach Antarctica, but to cross the entire continent on foot, something no human had done before. The mission was named the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition, and due to its dangerous nature, very few were willing to join. Shackleton's first challenge was to find a crew. He published a now famous ad in the Times newspaper which read, "Men wanted for hazardous journey, low wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful." This bold honesty attracted those unafraid of danger, and soon Shackleton assembled his 27-man crew. 4 years of planning went into the mission, but as departure neared, World War I broke out, threatening to cancel everything. Fortunately, Britain allowed the expedition to continue despite the war. The mission required an extremely durable ship capable of navigating through the frozen Antarctic Ocean. Luckily, a Norwegian company had already built such a vessel for polar bear hunting in the Arctic. The project failed and Shackleton bought the ship, naming it Endurance. Made from strong American oak and designed to resist crushing ice, Endurance was a hybrid vessel, both sail and engine-powered. Finally, on August 8, 1914, Endurance set sail from Plymouth, England. The team spent 4 months crossing the Atlantic, stopping in Argentina, and then at South Georgia Island to make final preparations. On December 5, 1914, they headed into the Weddell Sea. The ship carried 28 men and 50 large sled dogs to haul supplies across the ice. For 46 days, the voyage went smoothly, and they were just 1 day away from the Antarctic coast. But on January 18, 1915, disaster struck. Thick ice, up to 18 feet deep, blocked their path. The ice was too soft to walk on, yet too hard to break through. Endurance was stuck just 130 kilometers from its destination. They tried manually moving the 300-ton ship, hacking at the ice for days, but could only manage 300 meters before it got stuck again. After a month of futile effort, Shackleton gave up on February 14, 1915, deciding to rely on the ice's natural movement and wait for it to break. Endurance became a winter station where the crew tried to stay active and maintain discipline. They played soccer, cut each other's hair, cooked meals, and tried to stay optimistic, waiting for the ice to free them. The team grew closer during this time, even emotionally bonding with the dogs. But nature had other plans. In April 1915, the ice began to shift, crushing inwards due to massive pressure. They worked tirelessly to free the ship from this pressure and survive that initial crisis. However, on July 14, 1915, a loud crack shook the ship again. Endurance tilted violently. By morning, they discovered the ship's rudder, the part used to steer, was destroyed. They had now been stuck for 7 months, over 2,000 kilometers from the nearest human settlement, with no way to call for help. Their only hope was Shackleton. By October 18, 1915, after 9 months of being trapped, An enormous pressure wave caused the ship to tilt 30 degrees. Water started leaking inside. The crew worked all night to stop the flooding, but it became clear. Endurance was doomed. On October 27, 1915, Shackleton ordered the ship to be abandoned. The crew moved everything, food, dogs, lifeboats, and bedding, onto the ice, now living completely exposed under the sky. For months, the ice slowly crushed the ship until Endurance finally sank beneath the surface. The crew now faced the terrifying question: how long could they survive floating on drifting ice? Shackleton decided they had to leave. Their best chance was to reach Paulet Island, 550 kilometers away, but only 3 small lifeboats remained, useless against icebergs strong enough to destroy a full-size ship. Luckily, these floating ice islands were drifting toward the island. Shackleton chose to stay on the moving ice, hoping to get closer. By February 1916, they had been on this journey for 13 months. Supplies had run out, and the crew was surviving on seals and penguins. Eventually, even that ran out. They had to kill their beloved dogs to survive. But the drifting ice shifted direction toward Elephant Island instead of Paulet. In April 1916, the crew reached Elephant Island, finally touching solid ground after 16 months. But the island was barren and uninhabitable. Their only hope was South Georgia Island, 1,300 kilometers away. On April 24, 1916, Shackleton and 5 men set out in a lifeboat for the most dangerous sea voyage in history. They faced 90-foot waves, freezing temperatures, and had no GPS, just stars and the sun to guide them. Despite their best efforts, they could only manage 80 kilometers per day. After 16 grueling days on May 10, 1916, they reached South Georgia, but on the wrong side of the island. They had to climb 4,000-foot mountains without proper gear. After 36 continuous hours of climbing, they finally reached the whaling station. Shackleton looked so unrecognizable, the people couldn't believe it was really him. 3 days later, he set out to rescue the rest of his crew. After multiple failed attempts, Shackleton finally spotted smoke rising from Elephant Island on August 30, 1916, a signal fire. Shackleton had left England on August 8, 1914, and returned home after 2 years and 22 days, bringing his entire team back safely. Though he never completed his original mission, this survival story earned him more admiration than success ever could. In 2022, over a century later, the wreck of Endurance was finally found 3,000 meters below the Antarctic Ocean, perfectly preserved. Even the ship's name was still clearly visible.